Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Capital One Bank, Sterling National Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from Amarant Bank, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, B6 Real Estate Advisors, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties Handler Real Estate Organization, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Catsimatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, RPW Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merringore Family Foundation, and these friends. Technology in real estate, technology in residential real estate. That's really the topic of what's going on. It's a parameter. It's taking place all over the country, but specifically in New York City and with the region. So today I've assembled this group of technology experts to talk about what's happening in the newest trends. My guests include Parag Sava, who is the founder and CEO of Rhino. We don't know why it was called Rhino, but we'll figure it out. From Canada, Yale Fox, who is the founder and the CEO of RentLogic. And really from New Jersey and New York, Brad Klatt, who is a principal of Canoebrook Partners and also the chairman, founder, and CEO of Logical Buildings. So explain to my audience what Rhino is.
Sure. It's really simple. We've created an insurance product that replaces cash security deposits and other upfront leasing requirements with a really cheap insurance policy. So instead of a resident, paying a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 security deposit when they move into an apartment in New York City, they today can instead buy a really cheap insurance policy for $10, $15, $20 a month.
Are landlords accept your insurance policy? Do they like the insurance policy? Or do landlords like saying, I like the cash in my hand? That's how I've been getting it for 70 years. Now you're asking me to take an insurance policy?
Sure.
Okay, you're not Liberty Mutual, you're not Geico. What? This is Rhino.
Yeah, I think that's true with anything new that happens in any space. There's always folks who are interested in doing something first, and other folks who take a little bit of time to get used to newer ideas.
But as we were saying prior to the show, there has been insurance for lease securities before.
Yeah, I think it's just about how well it works and does it suit what a landlord actually needs today, and how well does it match up with the way they do business. And in the last 15 years that this concept has been floating around, there's been a major change in both technology and insurance, which have enabled the solutions to get much closer to what people need. In terms of a landlord and a resident.
Here's the point. There has been insurance for many years for lease security. I think what you've done is you've created a product that people are interested in listening to. I think landlords are interested, and I think the consumer is interested, especially since they want to save money and they rather have the the insurance policy. So here I'm going to ask somebody who's been a landlord for past 30 years. What's your thought about this Rhino product as opposed to a security deposit?
It's an interesting question. The industry is very slow to adapt to doing business differently in many respects, which we'll talk about. Technology is the hardest one for all of us, Neanderthals. But
Not for me. It's easy for me.
well, you're special.
No.
But those of us who live in the top decile rents, top quartile rents, many are run by people who are my age and older, and they like to have hold of the money.
Okay, but many of these companies also have the next generation in there. And the next generation, I think a great example is the Rudens. Okay, because Michael has been on my show on technology. So, you know, Billy is the second generation or the third generation. Michael's the fourth generation, and he realizes that technology has an important place. So it's sometimes your father or your relative or your cousin saying to you, forget about what you did in the past, we should adapt for the future. Okay, so that's an important point. Let's talk about what is rent logic.
So what we do is essentially grade apartment buildings, A, B, C, or sometimes F, in the same way that cities grade restaurants. And it's done so on a basis of health and safety standards. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's a luxury building.
Who gets an A? Who gets a B, C, or D? And how is it determined? Okay, is it done technology? Is it an algorithm? Is it a physical visit?
So we pull data from city agencies like DOB and HPD, and we're looking for major issues like mold, bed bugs, rodents, roaches. All that data is then collected and weighted and essentially compares every building to every other similar type of peer, and it outputs a score based on the sum and the weighting of the violations that have been collected.
So now I'm going to ask the owner again. You know, you're perfect that you've been here. Okay, you have a couple of buildings who are rated by Rent Logic.
Many.
What's your thoughts about that?
I think that at some level in the upper luxury end, the product is interesting but not, and informative, but not necessarily determinative. But when you get to a lesser quality buildings that don't have doormen, buildings that are in Brooklyn or Queens or Bronx or areas that the normal person might not be familiar with, it's an incredibly important product because I want to know, is that building safe? Is that building comfortable? Is that building with the amenities I like? Is that building responsive to the needs of the tenants? And Rent Logic allows me to see that on my screen. So when I'm setting my tours up to go see the 4 or 5 buildings I'm going to go see, responsive to brokers or directs, I can take
Why,
my
do you have
map
pictures
by
of your-
virtue.
on the buildings?
We don't typically have listings. Some owners do send us listings because when you become a certified building, you get a sign that goes on the exterior facade. It's got a big A on it. Think of it kind of like a LEED or a wired score certification. And people that are walking by can scan that and see a building health report card, and they can also click through and see listings. The listings will route them either to a brokerage or to a leasing office, depending on.
But on your screen today, we could see pictures of any of those buildings just by screening them up on one
Right,
side
I mean, if
and
you-
putting
if you
you
do
on
a
the other
Google
side
search,
and
you
learning
just-
everything there is to know.
Yeah, so people will use a site like Street Easy, find some buildings that they want, and then look up the grade and then kind of use it as a way of adjusting their funnel for what.
Do you know,
apartments they're
I'm a
actually
Yelp user, okay? I like Yelp. How do you compare to Yelp?
It's meant to be the complete opposite to Yelp and other user-generated review sites. Those are typically subjective and biased and fueled by an emotional response. So if you actually look at the average Yelp score of a building owner in New York City, it's around 1.4, 1.5 stars. If you compare that to any kind of statistical test, it's impossible. You would expect to see some sort of a normal distribution, and that's not what you get in this. So all that kind of concludes that Yelp is not the right tool for a renter that's looking to find an apartment. You could have a building that's, say, 100 units, 10 years old. So you've had, we'll call it 3,000 families that have gone through that over the past decade. And if 10 of them have a negative experience, suddenly when people go and look up your building, it looks like it's a terrible place to live when that's actually not the reality. On top of that, sometimes people purchase a building and they inherit past Yelp reviews, and a lot of times they just want a clean start. So what we do is we'll actually recognize when a building transacts on our platform, and it will indicate that to the user, and it will adjust the algorithm to give them the benefit of the doubt. At the same time, sometimes you have a building that has a B or a C grade. We've definitely seen it before, but you can have anything from a 6 to a 400 unit building where there are some tenants that, just like there can be good and bad landlords, there can be good and bad tenants as well. We want to sit right in the middle of both parties. And so in the event that we notice that there's a unit with an alarmingly large number of violations, we can flag that on the back end, and sometimes we do that and we make adjustments. But you can also initiate an inspection where we will send, at the owner's request, a third-party inspector who will go through and take a look at the building to assess what it's like from a renter's perspective. So it's different than what a bank or an insurance company might be looking at.
Okay, we have renter insurance for securities, okay? We have a rating, and now what do you do? Besides being an owner and a tech investor.
Logical Buildings is a company which was formed around a table to solve a problem. And this problem was we were in budget camp one fall, and we said, why is the energy cost in this 40-story building with 400 units $800,000, away from what the tenants pay? And as a builder, built 40 buildings, we decided every Monday morning at 10 o'clock to have a project meeting, and we put all the pieces over a number of months of the mosaic that come to play a role, from the tariff that the building is labeled, to the transparency of all of the machinery in the building and how it uses electricity or gas or water, to all of the other components, including behavioral of the use of the actual building, and behavioral of the people who run the systems in the building who can move that around. What are their factors? Then we built a software product that took all of those things into account and ultimately came out with a series of desired behaviors.
Now,
it's different building by building and machinery by machinery.
In a similar manner to what we were saying before, there was always security deposits. There was always, a certain type of ratings in a different way. And there were always people coming into the owner's building and saying, I came out with a cost savings for electricity. What differentiates you from the people who came to somebody who said, I'll do a savings and you'll split my profitability? What changes with your business?
Our business is different because every building is bespoke. Every building, although it has similar engineering, might have similar engineering, is not. It's used differently. The demography in the building, just think if the building is the same building, you think it's the same from the outside, but this is a family building, there are a lot more baths, there's a lot more hot water, there's a lot more of different things. And so the software learns the building.
Are you putting devices into the buildings?
We're putting in a new meter. We go to the host utility, Con Ed, put in a brand new meter that gives us interval data. And then we put IoT devices on all of the large consumers in the building, and we see exactly how the building, when and how the building uses its power, or its gas, or its water. And then we feed the behaviors into our software and reprogram the building to utilize those, let's call it draws, on a different basis than they are. And it makes a meaningful difference. And you could look at it as being, well, these things don't exist. How did they exist before? They never existed before. We didn't have IoT before 4 years ago anywhere. But now our system is like an L. You walk into a building with 6 elevators, and which one comes to you? And why does it come to you? Do you know? But the one that comes first should come first and does come first. And the elevators travel less and they're more efficient. It's exactly what our software does to the utilization of electricity in the building, and then it takes into account the outside weather and the inside utilization, and ultimately allows you to, 1, have lower cost, and then 2, with perfect data, transparent data, buy your power at a lower cost based upon when you actually use it, as opposed to when you just are buying it in blocks.
How do you sell the concept? Okay, how do you promote the product?
Yeah,
Rob?
sure. I mean, I think at its core, it's about, does the business, does the concept, does the service or the product align with the incentives of the sort of customers in the marketplace? And I think for us, thankfully the answer is yes. So
I mean, am I going to be on the subway and I'm going to see,
no, for us it's primarily going to owners, landlords, property managers, and where they congregate and get together. So,
See, I think there's a big market is also the brokers, because the brokers, when they're renting an apartment, if they're charging a brokerage fee plus security deposit, it can be very expensive, the combination. So the brokerage community, it's a very important thing.
yeah, absolutely. They're a very interested stakeholder and a third sort of participant to the transaction. But the age-old thing in real estate is that the landlord or property manager is setting the requirements. It's their building, and they need to understand what the product is or what Rhino is and why it benefits them. So we've partnered with groups like the Rent Stabilization Association here in New York City, which has endorsed us and helps us, disseminate information and educate owners. So we've primarily been going to owners and property managers directly to let them know what we're doing and engage in a discussion
So here's
about
the
what
big
the benefits
question.
are.
If I was renting an apartment, hypothetically, it doesn't, let's say Williamsburg or Red Hook, and my rent is $3,000 a month, and my security deposit could be 1 or 2 months, what is the difference on the $3,000 going to be for Mike Stoller, who's the renter,
Sure.
in my premium that I'm paying to you?
That's right, yeah. So it might be as low as $15 a month if it's a $3,000 deposit. And so keep in mind that's also at the time with you, Mike Stoller, as a renter, you're paying first month's rent, moving costs, all the other stuff that comes with moving into a new place.
Which is a
It's a lot of
perfect
money.
line, because Yale brought up before, he's buying insurance from you because he's renting in a building owned by a great guy by the Brodsky organization, and as opposed to paying a $3,000 security deposit, you're paying what?
I can't remember exactly, but I think it's like 11 or 12 bucks per month.
Now, how do you determine the pricing?
Yeah.
Is it underwritten by an insurance company, underwriters?
It is. We've built the whole program in-house, so we control
See, because
that.
you don't have that
large-
many losses up front, so your insurance is experience rated.
That's right, but security deposits and losses in real estate are well known and for time immemorial, so it's quite predictable and easy to see. One of the things that we feel sort of at our core is that it's about accessibility to housing. We all know, sort of not just in New York City, but across the country and in every major metro, it's getting more and more expensive. More people are spending a greater fraction of their income on housing expenses than anything else in their wallet, to use a reference Yale made.
What happens on a co-share? The lease is on a co-sharing of apartment. That's different than the traditional. You have a couple of people on that lease.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it works just like utility bills or a cable bill or anything else. There's
So it's for the
someone
unit,
that's
and
taking
then they break it,
responsibility
okay.
for the unit. Yeah. And the way it's priced, just to get back to your other question, Michael, is we take in a little bit of information from the resident, so it depends on what's their income, a few usual personal details, because our goal again is to make it as affordable as possible for that resident. But that does mean there's a little bit of a price difference. It may be $10 or $12 or what have you, depending on the person.
In 2005, 2009, real estate companies weren't talking about technology. And Brad brought up the comment that, real estate companies have IT departments, they have human resources departments, but they don't really have tech departments. Why?
Or chief technical
Or
officer.
chief technology officer.
I think that the construction companies all did first, because technology, software and hardware and implementation into the building field was identified as being most important first. And so we all did. But with respect to everything else, most of the regular real estate companies, not the larger ones like Brookfield and RXR, don't have a chief technology officer. And if they did, it wouldn't only be to vet those new technologies, it would be to change the culture, to be open-minded about it, to be able to integrate. We have a group of 12 real estate companies in New Jersey who are around CRE Tech and Eric Whitmont as our leaders, and we test products together. And we give some of these new companies the opportunity, but we have a culture of being open to
It's like
technology.
Underwriter's Laboratory.
Well, it is a little bit, but
No, I mean, you're reviewing different products. Okay.
we are, but we're actually putting them in our buildings and thinking about it differently. Think about this. Most real estate tech people at this point are still at the stage of saying, okay, if I use that and it doesn't work, Can I clip it off and not affect my timeframes and not affect my value and not interfere with my building? Okay, we don't think about that when we buy Microsoft or any other software and put it into our businesses. So how do we get it into the business and make it an integral part and let it be as disruptively valuable as we're seeing with Honest Buildings and so many other companies? You need somebody to help shift that culture, and we are seeing many real estate companies now hire CTOs to be able to make it a culture that's welcoming to new technologies. And maybe we're not seeing it that fast, but we are a very fragmented industry. And that fragmentation probably is an impediment to some extent, but we're seeing big advances.
How do you fund these businesses? Who's funding them? Who's underwriting these products? Do we have venture capital? Do we have private placement of individuals? Who's helping you run your business during the period of time when you're losing money because you don't make money up front?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's no right answers, I'll say, but what we have seen in building our business that's been really important is, understanding that we're not just an insurance business, yes, but a technology business and a real estate business. But the backbone of what we're building is rooted in technology. And so we've seen, and our investors,
What's the next product?
What's the next product? Great question. Going from residential, multifamily to commercial makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, and it does for us also. It's the same pains for security deposits exist.
I think it's the most logical situation. What's the next step for you?
For us right now, we're really just focused on gaining market share. We don't want to start to spin off too many different kinds of products. So helping to get our sign.
See, but you want to go into two markets, okay? Not into two markets. You want the consumer to accept the product idea, and you also want the landlord to be happy and display the use of the ratings.
Yeah, so we have pretty good consumer adoption right now, close to 100,000 building lookups per month directly on our site. We're top 5 on Google for a good handful of keywords. We also have an API that's rolling out, so that could be the next product that we're talking about. So that's
for my audience, explain what an API is.
The ability to put our grades on other third-party sites. So not just apartment rental sites, but roommate sharing sites, roommate finding sites. There's a couple platforms that are in the commercial space that are looking at us as a tool to help them identify new opportunities.
I mean, Parag has a similar situation with certain owners, right?
Yeah.
You say the building is already insured.
Yeah, that's right. Everything comes back to some kind of, how are people finding out about apartments and vacancies and the like. What we've seen is many owners like to advertise and promote that their building is deposit-free with Rhino because it is such a strong sort of, upfront story for prospective tenants. So we're working with listing platforms and the likes.
And you?
Our next product is very straightforward. We've been pulling the data out of the buildings. We've been changing the behavior to utilize better behaviors and therefore spend less at the right time, but not change the quality. That data has now taken us to being in the procurement business. So we've partnered with a reverse auction platform, and we're using perfect data of the building's utilization. And instead of just doing 10, 12% savings of energy as our main products are, we're now clipping on the capacity to use interval data from your own building into a reverse auction platform and add another 4 or 5% of savings. So it's a blockchain of utilization of data from the very beginning of looking at the building all the way through transparency and now utilizing it to actually not only have changed your behavior and use patterns, but also to procure your power.
How are the VCs looking at the businesses today?
With excitement. I think, I don't know the stat, but hundreds of millions of dollars are getting invested into real estate technology, and I expect 2019 to be a bigger year than 18. 18 was bigger than 17, and so on.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing too. There's a lot of VC that's looking to get involved in real estate tech or prop tech. It seems like there's a new fund targeting it every couple weeks.
But the biggest problem that I see is that everybody believes that they can have a new product that's going to be successful.
But
and it's useful, okay? Certain of these products, they call it technology. I've seen it in many in the office leasing world specifically, saying, it's not, it's really just internet search product that somebody's going to call you immediately, unless there are certain algorithms or certain other things.
But Michael, this isn't new. Venture capital is a 30, 40-year-old industry. They're used to having a higher risk platform at the very beginning of businesses, and then a lesser risk as we progress in capacity to perform. So those investors are very organized and very institutional and used to the risk.
Where do you see the industry in 10 years, technology and real estate?
I think it's going to be less a discussion about technology and real estate and more just back to talking about real estate. The more it's going to become part of everybody's everyday workflow, whether you're a leasing agent or a property manager or a CEO, it's going to play a role.
It's influenced and changed and transformed every other industry. It's made them more efficient and ultimately better for everybody that's involved in them, whether it's healthcare or just about anything else.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely on the up.
Absolutely. Total integration on an order of magnitude that we really can't perceive how it's going to work, but no different than elevators having software that makes the right one come to you. 10 years ago, did we know about that? It happens. Every aspect of what we're doing is integrating technology. Half the tools in this room are integrating technologies that weren't part of what they were 10 years ago, and we'll watch our industry accept it.
Right, and I'm happy that I've been able to bring these products to the community and to the world on my show today. I'd like to thank Parag, Yale, and Brad, and see you next week.